And we are back with part 2 of round 1 of the 2020 Northwest MVP Open at Heider's Hike. I'm Scott Withers here with DJ Herrington. As we move into part 2, DJ, we saw Dane banging some big putts on that front nine, so you think he can continue it on this back?
Yeah, that was incredible showing on the first part, and I think he's really feeling it. You know, he took a bogey, but he's still sitting at 3 under, leading the card here. And we're moving right into hole 16. What's your play on hole 16 here?
So 16 is a very unique disc golf shot, I'd say. The whole fence area is out of bounds. You can bail out as far and as far left as you want, but if you want the birdie, you have to kind of hug the fence. This shot that Lewis is throwing is so hard to get the correct height and to get it to stop and everything. Really cool to see. It's just, there's not much room for error there, but he throws it right next to the basket. So good start there. I think the rest of us are probably going forehand on this hole. Kind of an anti-flex that goes over that shed thing on the left and will fade back close to the fence. Have you ever looked inside that shed? You know what's in there?
I have not. What's in there?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a giant, giant telescope to look at the stars and stuff at night, like super big. So.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that either until last time we were out there, but I think Dave's really into it, so it was super cool to look at. I'm going Champ Firebird on this. It looks really good out of my hand, and I'm pumped about it, and then it doesn't get over the fence.
Oh.
So, very disappointing to throw it in there. Dane sees mine go in there and decides he wants to go to the other basket that is not the one he's supposed to go to. But it's a lot easier to make a par from there than it is where I have to play from a very scary drop zone putt.
As you hear Dane, if you could hear it in the background, he says, wrong basket.
Yep, and this is the drop zone, which is about 45 feet downhill. And because I refuse to lay up, I go for it, roll off the cage, and then roll back to the fence. So I think my drive was closer than either of these shots, and I've got about, 30 feet left way uphill to save bogey.
And that drop zone is the perfect drop zone. It sits you right there, and it's so enticing of a putt. And it really is a death putt. There's a long hill behind it, and rollouts happen almost every time if you miss. And it just looks so close. But it's really like 45 feet. And I also go for it every single time. Like, it just seems too close not to.
Yeah, but I bet you I don't make it half the time from up there. I bet my make percentage is probably like 25 to 30% of the time, and I probably bogey it 50% of the time that I don't make it. So Terran's showing you in the replay the way the forehand is supposed to look, and then we're going to move into hole 17. But like I said, once you get to 15, you're kind of in that stretch where you can get a bunch of birdies coming in, especially where we started on hole 7, where now you have most of the field holes to go, and it's kind of the scoring section on this property. So tell us about hole 17 here.
Hole 17 is par 3, 330 feet, and people can throw forehand, backhand, whatever they want. They have a OB that sits about 40 feet behind the basket. You see Terran throwing a forehand here.
Yeah, good shot. He's going with a Firebird there, and that's a little more than I have in the tank. I've got to go distance driver or really crush a Firebird on this. I think Dane's going distance driver here, probably some type of a destroyer, and that's a little more textbook from what you're used to seeing good shots end up like.
Absolutely, and you're going to probably throw your Cloud Breaker here and try to hang it out left, and let's see what you got.
Yeah, Cloud Breaker, rolled my wrist on it. At this point in the round, we'd played a lot of disc golf the few days leading up to this, and you could see pretty hesitant on that forehand there and rolled the wrist, but didn't look like a clean follow-through. My arm was starting to kind of give me some issues at this point in the round. I didn't want to throw forehand on it, but I just don't practice the backhand on this shot very often, and I don't really have that touch that maybe Lewis does on the backhand for a low-cover shot like this one is.
Yeah, it is a tough backhand shot. I generally throw mid-range on it, and in this tournament, I decided to throw T-Bird straight, and I threw it straight out of bounds through the back, and Lewis makes his par putt there.
Yeah, you went out of bounds long over that gravel road, huh? That's a pump.
Yeah, it was just pure out of my hand. It had a shot of going in the whole way and just missed it, and it was really disappointing.
Yeah, clean it up, par. Terran with a good birdie putt. Dane with a great drive, and then hits extreme right side, but it stays in. Do you like these baskets? I mean, they were brand new for this tournament.
Yeah, I think the MVP portals are actually really nice. They seem to catch well. I didn't hear a lot of people complaining about them. The chains didn't seem stiff like some new baskets tend to be. They seem really solid.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it was the first time I've played on them. I putted on some like portable MVP baskets and stuff, and they've always been okay. But Shaun was pretty pumped about getting these out here, and I thought they did their job very well.
Yeah, and thank you to the people that sponsored the holes. There was a bunch of people that sponsored the holes. A bunch of people, the locals, elected to buy them, and they are going to get one of the old baskets that were originally on the course. But thank you to those guys. That makes this course really, really incredible.
Yeah, so hole 18, usually the last hole in the property, but obviously we didn't start on hole 1. So 270 feet, it's just a pretty standard backhand, either mid-range or putter, like maybe a fast putter shot. The idea is, like the angle that Lewis started that on, I like to take a straight or kind of flippy disc and throw it on a little hyzer and let it stand up. That was almost exactly what I would do with it, or would like to do with it. I'm throwing star stud and kind of on the tumble right now in terms of throwing good shots.
Yeah, I definitely see you're losing a little bit of focus here. This is the second tournament in a day. We played the race for the cup at Bryant the day before this, and a lot of guys elected not to play 2 tournaments in a weekend, but when they're both so close, you got to do it.
Yeah, we both did, and it didn't treat either of us particularly well, but we both played pretty good at Bryant the day before and came out here, and I know you struggled a bit in the first round also. And then it seemed like, as can happen at Heider's, as Lewis buries a good birdie putt, everything that I was doing at this point just felt like it was going wrong. I hit the pole on a 130-foot up shot, and it rolls to whatever that is, 30, 35 feet down the hill. And at this point, I've made like 6 par putts in a row outside of that bogey that were like 30-footers, and it's just in that grind of trying to hold it together.
And Heider's is a place where when it goes bad, it goes real bad. And I hadn't thrown up a 940 round or whatever I did in a long time, and threw it out at Heider's. Those trees will get you.
Yeah, we're watching Lewis here, and I would say his putt's got a little more hyzer on it this day than it traditionally does. They're looking a little angled out of his hand, but I can't judge right now. The rest of this card's kicking my butt around this course, and I'm kind of kicking my own butt by not hitting some lines off the tee. But we're going to move into hole 1. This may be kind of tough to see on camera. It is a giant sky hyzer. Double mando here. You got to go through the 2 green arrows. Dane barely gets through the 2 green arrows. And then it's just got to be so high and go so far left, and you're not going to really be able to tell on camera. We're just going to kind of see when they get up there.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough hole. You got the power cables in play. You're just kind of trying to throw it near those and let it fall to the left. It's really a tough hole, actually. The OB comes into play with where the basket's at if you want to push it long or if you skip too far left, and that tends to happen.
And Terran with the big old grip lock. I'm not even sure what he hit, but he fell straight down. I'm throwing a Glow Rock X3 here. I like the height, and I thought I liked the line, and I just didn't quite get past the last tree or over the last tree or something, and you can tell by the reaction that's kind of the way the round was going at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough go when you're struggling physically and you're struggling to stay in it mentally.
Yeah, and at this point, backhands were hurting and forehands were really hurting. So the only thing that was saving me was the fact that my putter was still going in the basket and I was still able to make some pars. But you see where all the shots that don't go high enough get to. This basket just got moved even farther left and back a little. they did a really cool job putting it on top of a planter and putting some flowers in there, and it looks really cool. It is a little bit tougher of a 2 now than it was the week before this tournament happened, and we see Lewis with another Hyzer putt that hits left side and bounces down in.
This is Dane saving his par there from the bushes, would sit at about 25, 30 feet away probably. And Terran right at that distance we were talking about.
You can tell they just come off his hand a little softer at that distance than they do from 30.
They really do.
He made it, and I'm perplexed and trying to figure out how I didn't get over that last tree. But, you know, when it's going good, it feels like your head's always clean. It feels like shots are coming easy, and then when you're struggling to get through a round, those voices start coming up that are questioning what you're doing and questioning all the little breaks that happen one way or the other, and the things that you usually wouldn't notice might come into it. And I know that you and I have talked about that because obviously you've been playing really well this year and got yourself on a bunch of lead cards, but they're all learning experiences when you just don't quite have it for a round.
Yeah, it's really tough having pressure on the lead card. I think out of my last 5 tournaments, I've made 4 lead cards, and 3 of them have been on film. So it's been a really awesome learning experience just to have the little bit of extra pressure from Colin and CH Sports and having him out there to, you know, film the game and put it online.
Dane throws a traditional shot here on hole 2. Not many people throw backhand, but Lewis doesn't quite have the forehand for this. You're going to throw, I would say most people are throwing a Firebird type disc, depending on what their manufacturer is, and basically trying to hit that shed. If you do hit the shed, you have like a 25 to 30 foot putt downhill. I mean, if you can skip right of it, that's even better, but you're really just trying to throw a shot that goes directly at that and hits it. I think I threw mine up into the bushes, and that one hurt. And I can tell you, even though you may not be able to tell on video, my arm was not in great shape at this point and had been overused the last few days and was starting to kind of catch up to me.
Yeah, and Lewis scrambling from the bushes on the left side here. Looks like he throws it in the circle.
Yep, and this isn't birdie range. I'm only going for this because I'm half annoyed at this point. Throw that up. Actually, a pretty good effort. Very easily could have hit a branch or a tree coming out of there, but didn't. Now here's where Terran has a advantage of being like 6'10". He's not actually that tall, but it feels like it to all of us. He's probably 6'3" or 6'4", but he's got those long legs and he can stretch out around stuff. But hits a tree that's just short of the basket, and we'll have to settle for his par.
And Dane lining up his birdie here. And money. Cashing it in.
Dane's not going to miss a putt right now. He's feeling it. He's playing super well and super clean. And when he's getting those opportunities, they're going in the basket.
Yeah. Dane's first time on camera really showing out right now.
Terran kills me from that distance.
I feel like he just has Happy Gilmore in his head, you know, just tap it in. Just tap it in.
I just give it a little tap, tap, taparoo.
Yeah, just go home, ball.
So Dane with the birdie, Terran, Lewis, and I believe, all with pars there. And we're moving on to the signature hole of this course, and honestly one of the cooler downhill shots that you're going to play. Unfortunately, as Colin throws up the graphic there, we did not get the tee shots on hole 3. So we're going to move down to the putts, and I can tell you Lewis is not where you want to be on hole 3, throwing a full up shot. But this hole is 375 downhill. Lewis gives it a really good run. That was a backhand, I believe, that hit a tree to stay there. Terran and I both threw forehand. I don't know why I did at this point, because I knew it was going to hurt. But we both threw forehand that ends up over here in this collection area. And this is a pretty tough little 40 to 45-foot putt that is pretty dangerous. You can see the elevated basket, and you can really tell how low Terran is compared to it on this.
Yeah, he is. Whoa, as Terran bangs it in from the range where he is confidently spinning it. And as you can see, Terran is a great putter from that 40-foot range.
Yeah, maybe these are just at the edge of the circle. Maybe they weren't quite in that 40-foot range. He stood there and it
Yeah.
looked like he got there real quick. And if I'm not jump putting, then we must have been just inside the circle on these. But I choose the bottom of the cage instead of the chains. So that'll work out for a par instead. As Dane, great drive. And guess who gets another birdie?
Nice tap in. He doesn't have much work to do on that one. As Dane's sitting at 7 under, Lewis at 5, Terran at 5, and you are at
I think even, maybe
2?
one down
1?
at this point. Yeah, I think the graphic that we were looking at as we're doing commentary here. I think I'm at 1 down, but either way, not really where you want to be at this point, as everyone else is kind of running away. And this is, of course, traditionally that if you shoot 6 or 7 under at, like if you shoot 7 both rounds, you probably win just because it's so technical and everything. So hole 4, 270 feet. What do you do on this one?
I throw a forehand with my Sexton Firebird. Just try to flip it up to flat, and if it bails out right, the bushes aren't bad over there, so you tend to get a 25, 30-footer, and then if it's good, it's parts.
Yeah, me too. I like the Firebird flip up forehand on this. Lewis says you don't need to throw a Firebird flip up. You're just going to take I assume a mid-range there, and I'm going to throw it right next to the basket. Terran's going 11-time Firebird himself.
And
catches a tree, but will be in putting range.
yeah, and that right gap, a lot of people play. If you play the backhand, you're actually playing the right gap, and there's a couple little sticks there that are in the way, but there actually is a big gap there. I wouldn't say big. Nothing's big at Heiders.
Yeah, for sure. I bail out early right, kick left, and that was about the end of what I was going to be able to do for the day. That one hurt the arm really bad, and you didn't get it on camera, but that was kind of the end of everything that I was doing for the day. But just for good measure, Barry is 65-footer, and you can tell I'm take the slow walk up to go get it out of the basket.
Yeah, it's a good putt to finish the round on there.
Dane is human, finally misses from 30 or 35 feet, kind of obstructed. Terran, oh boy. There we go.
Tapped it in. Attaboy.
I think he should just leave the bag on and just toss it in. Like he's waving to the crowd, making sure that everyone out here knows he's got a birdie on hole 4 and that he made a 16-foot putt, as the rest of us just casually tossing putts of the same distance. But great 2. Keep the momentum going, and these 3 are really battling right now. At least I got a replay out of that one.
Yeah, it's a great score from 3 out of the 4 guys on the card there. That's you don't see a lot of cards that are, have 3 guys in that 5, 6, 7 under range.
Yeah, we move on to hole 5. This is I would think that this is probably the hardest par 3 on the property. The 2 par 4s are obviously trickier, but look at the size of this gap, and it's truly at least 300 feet.
Yeah, and this is uphill. A lot of players like to throw a stable fairway driver that is you put on an ante and is going to come back through the gap. We're going to see Lewis hitting a little bit early there, doesn't flip it over, and that is a very common play to kick right into the natural hazard there.
Yeah, and there you say natural hazard. I mean, it is absolute jungle on both sides. I hit right and kick left, and there's nothing. I can tell you now, there's nothing from there. You're too far back. There's still too many trees in the way. Dane lines it up, and oh boy, that took a great second kick to be able to stay in the fairway.
Yeah, and looks like Dane's lining up a forehand roller here.
Yep, ends up over by 6's tee pad. That's just the pitch up range, and I have, you can see the stretch out. There's a lot of work between here and there, and I'm trying to figure out how to throw this at this point, and I just couldn't get myself to really commit to anything. Try to throw a forehand turnover, and not bad.
I thought that you'd already dropped out at this point, so I said that you'd finished on the last hole. So still playing.
Yeah, still playing. I mean, everyone else in the card had pretty much already told me at this point, like, you're dumb. Just pick your disc up and be done with it. It probably wouldn't have mattered. I think even if I had finished the round, it would have been so low rating-wise that it wouldn't have stayed on anyways. But, I played probably the last 8 or 9 holes as a shell of what I could do. And we had a pretty big tournament coming up the next weekend as we see Terran line up his birdie putt over here, which is a pretty good look. And, the right decision was to make sure that I was healthy enough to play NUI, which even that ended up being a struggle the weekend after. But I'm whatever here, like 40 feet, trying to figure out. You can see I almost picked my disc up there. I was kind of fighting with myself on whether I should continue or not. So this isn't the most fun thing to watch yourself go through, but it will end up being the first time that I didn't finish a tournament I've been a member since 2009. And when I did that, I could just feel it. And there was no more productive things that were going to come out of continuing to play that day. So Dane taps in his bogey and drops a shot on what was such a good and such a clean round. Lewis taps in his bogey. Terran taps in his par. And at this point, I had picked up. So.
And nobody thought that you were going to drop out. Like, there was a couple guys, I think Justin Anderson and Lewis was like, hey, I'll bet you like $5, like, Scott's gonna drop. And Justin was like, oh God, no, like, there's no way that Scott's gonna drop out. And he was like, thinking about, double, tripling down on the bet, and he was like, oh, I'm not gonna take that bet, because he didn't know what was going on. But it was really surprising to everyone there that you weren't able to finish.
Yeah, let's move into hole 6 as we get here now. Hole 6 is a turnover to the right. You can see the Mando tree on the left for the drives and everything, but you really just want to get a stable, like, gator type disc forehand, or Lewis is going to throw backhand with something super flippy on this hole. But, this is one these guys would like to pick up to end the round, and I was still walking with them, obviously, at this point, but one that they want to get to kind of finish.
Yeah, and I really like the backhand play on this hole. I throw it backhand and really just try to throw it straight, and because of the slope of the green, it always tends to scuttle down towards the basket and get you a 20-footer. And then here we got Terran just laying up to take his 3, end the round at 6 under there. Lewis lining up his par or his birdie there, cashing it in, finishing at 6 down there. And 6 down's a great round at Heider's. And Terran right at that distance once again, taking his time, cashing in his par, finishing at 6 down himself. Dane tapping in his last birdie at 6 under. And that is a great job by Dane, Lewis, and Terran. 6 under for all 3 of them on the card is a great round. And really thank you guys for coming out and watching. And
yeah, pretty cool to watch. I mean, to get to see this course finally on video. Thanks to Colin for coming out. Great round by Dane. Super solid by Lewis and Terran. Really fun to go back and watch some of those shots on video because they are so tight and everything's so kind of crazy amplified if you make a mistake on this course. So you can see as the score scrolled down, Shaun Kirk played well. It's his home course. Takes the lead into round 2, but you're going to see a lead card featuring Dane, who's in the low 900s, but what a round for him to come out and pick his time to probably have one of his highest rated rounds ever. So really cool to see. We know Dane personally, really, really nice guy, always fun to be around. And then Lewis and Terran, also good job, and they'll have a chance to stick with it all and pick up hopefully a little victory here as we move into round 2. So, DJ, thanks for joining us for commentary. Thank you, Colin and CH Sports for the video coverage, and then thank you to AGL Discs and Hyzer Dyes for sponsoring it. But until round 2, this was the 2020 Northwest MVP Open. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, thanks everybody.